Let's crack on with the lecture then. So today we're really going to be discussing mobile devices, as I've said. We're going to go through the definition of mobile devices, the different types of mobile devices out there, and some accessories and components that basically you can have on those items. We're going to have a look at the connections, so how we connect to networks and how we connection and different connection types that we have from these devices. And we're going to have a little glance into the variety of mobiles out there, so the mobile apps and the OSs and any extensions on the systems. As usual, interactive lesson, please feel free to throw as many questions into live chat as you want. Put your hand up and we can have a good chat around the topics here. It's quite an expansive topic and we kind of cover it as deeply as we really need to for some of the qualifications and some of the work that you might well be doing, but I'm happy to delve in a little bit deeper if appropriate. So mobile devices, let's have a quick definition. A mobile device essentially is any portable computing device, okay, that can be carried, hence portable, and operated by a user in different locations and environments. Okay, so these obviously include things such as our beautiful smartphones that we know we use, tablets, laptops, smartwatches, e-readers, and wearable devices. Okay, that all kind of rams into our mobile devices area. They have become massively popular. You know, we had a big explosion about mobile phones and things like that. Must have been, God, 15 years ago, probably 20 years ago. Crikey. I remember the first mobile phone I ever saw was literally the size of a battery. You know, the battery you take out of your car, it was that big. It had a massive handset that sat on the top. Probably had a battery life of about 6 to 7 minutes, something like that. Absolutely hilarious fun. And that's what we used to call a mobile device when I was a wee lad, shall we say. Okay, we've had a massive explosion for them. They're getting smaller, they're getting smarter. You know, and we all know the traditional thing. Well, basically, one of the rumors that goes around is very much that your mobile device, your mobile phone, has more compute power on it now than was actually available when they send man to the moon. So that kind of gives you a rough idea of some of the expansions that we've had in these items. So let's have a quick glance through some of the types of mobile devices. Now, this is all pretty key for most of us. We should pretty much understand this, but please feel free to ask any particular questions on this. So laptops are normally considered to be mobile devices that have a clamshell approach. Okay, that tends to be where we design laptops. They have a keyboard that hinges on the screen, and that's really what defines them nowadays as being laptops. They're suitable for users that need high performance and flexibility in the device. And generally, people who actually need to access a keyboard. So a lot of us will simply have a laptop as our main device now because we've shrunk technology down so much. We no longer need to deal with the desktop to get all the power. We can smash that into a laptop. It has a readily available keyboard that we're used to typing with. So it has a 102 format keyboard. So that is very familiar to us. And we can kind of get on with those devices without the need of carrying a big chunky machine around with us. Tablets tend to be a mobile device, which is a thin component. It has got a touch screen in these. Now, although a lot of laptops nowadays do have touch screens, they're probably not used very much. I mean, I'm sat on a HP EliteBook. I don't think I've really used the touchscreen at all. Let's be honest about it. That was a bit of a waste of money when that got purchased. Simply because, you know, we're used to using the keyboard. Why would I reach out and touch the screen? It has some uses, and I can do pinches and clicks and things like that across the screen. But in all honesty, yeah, mainly it's keyboard driven. Tablets, it's 100% touchdown. So you're touching the screen to do different tasks. Then we have our beautiful smartphone. I don't know, man, fingerprints. I don't know a man or person in this world who doesn't actually have a smartphone or a mobile phone of some form. That is really horrible to say that because actually I do know someone who does. I know someone who absolutely hates mobile devices at all. He refuses to carry a smartphone with him. I don't know your dad, Luca, but thanks very much. So your dad doesn't have it. My dad's got one. Oh, he's horrible. He's not horrible. It's horrible what he does with the smartphone. He just generally abuses it. He still hasn't got used to the idea that a smartphone can be turned on all the time so we can contact him. My dad will happily go, I'd say, okay, I'm going out for a long walk now, or I'm going to the shops, I'm doing this. And I go, well, if you're taking your phone with you, yeah, I've got my phone with me. It's in my bag. It's turned off, but it's in my bag. I'm like, well, if I have to phone you or contact you, what's going to happen? Oh, it's all right. It's just for emergencies. Well, the battery will last all day, Dad. Probably a couple of days with the amount you use, is it? Still, it's one of those things, isn't it? Paul Bird used to like the Nokia 2660 something. Man, I remember some of the really tiny ones. I've got a friend who won't use anything other than one of those little Nokias. And he says basically because he doesn't want to be contactable all the time. He doesn't want to use any of it. He doesn't want to use his calendar on it. He doesn't want to use anything else like that. He doesn't want to play games. He just wants a little device in his pocket, strangely enough, a phone that he can use for phone reasons, not for anything else. But we know full well we have massively expanded everything, and things basically became bigger and bigger. Apple kind of went, let's make things bigger and bigger and bigger. And they got, what was it, the iPhone 11 was 8.5 inches. They were coming up to 9 inches, weren't they? They were just like small tablets. I didn't get one. I ended up sticking with as you can see, I've still got the traditional 5.5 inch one, simply because I like to put it in my pocket. The big phones won't fit in my pocket. So I kind of go, well, I'm not going to get a big phone. To be fair, I don't play many games on it. I do a bit of social media and stuff like that on it, take some pictures, but I do not need a massive one to put in my pocket. My daughter is different, okay? She gets a big one. I was just reading some of the comments there. Was your first mobile phone? Yes, that's a good question, really, isn't it? Okay, so mobile phones, smartphones, they web browser, you can do social media, games. So they are all in all, basically, and they're fantastic. They're great for making sure we know where our kids are. Great for carrying around when we need to do important things. We can take pictures, videos, and stay generally in touch. They're very much like carrying a mini computer around with you, isn't it, nowadays? Love the design from Nokia. Thank you very much. And then we go for e-readers. Okay, well, e-readers were really different, and they really came into force because they were literally designed for reading digital books and magazines and newspapers. So why don't we just do that on a tablet or a smartphone? Okay, the answer is simply that we can do it, but the difference with the e-reader was the screen was a lot better for not reflecting images. So you didn't have trouble with the sun. You could take an e-reader out into bright sunshine and you would happily be able to read it no matter what angle you're at. So that was really where the digital screen was on there and what that benefit was. If you took your phone or a tablet out, yeah, you could look at it, but man, the glare off of it was, oh, absolutely atrocious. You had to sit at the right angle in the shade. E-readers didn't have those issues. E-readers you will commonly find on the beach somewhere, someone in a deck chair, lying there sunning themselves with a lovely e-reader rather than a smartphone or a tablet. And as Marty basically puts out, especially battery life with an e-reader, they last for years. Well, yes, that's probably the wrong way to put it. Yes, you will happily get a good couple of days with an e-reader without any problems, without having to charge it, probably a week. And essentially they did the best part of replacing books. Oh, boo, hiss, I hear everyone say. We're never going to replace books totally, but e-readers certainly went a long way to allowing you to carry 25, 30 books in a little device. It's great. Certainly for those people that crack through books, it was great. So those are e-readers. Other types of mobile devices. As you can see here, we have our good old friendly smartwatch. The smartwatches are absolutely incredible now. Certainly the amount of data that a smartwatch can collect from you. This is one of the EvoFit ones. Apple obviously do one, so they're done by multiple manufacturers now. So they tend to be touchscreen. Now, gone are the buttons on the side. It's all basically touchscreen, swipe up, swipe down on the systems, swipe left. A lot of them have speakers and microphones attached. I know mine will take music when I go running. Not that I go running and not that I listen to music on it. Let's be honest about that. I have to come clean about some of that, don't I? But they have a variety of additional sensors on them. Okay, they will monitor our heart rate. They'll do accelerometers and gyroscopes. They'll maintain our GPS positions. So they are fantastic for recording and maintaining information, gathering data, basically all that sort of stuff with smartwatches. And then the last one on the list there is virtual reality, augmented reality headsets. So a thumbs up. Who's ever played with a virtual reality headset? I think Oculus are probably one of the more popular ones out there, but there's a multitude of them, isn't there? Precious has, Ronald has. The Jets has an Oculus Quest 3. Very good. And they're getting lighter, aren't they? That's the important thing about them nowadays. Can't what with me wearing specs. I think you can still actually use the Oculus with without glasses. Or with glasses. I can't remember which way around it is. They make them so that you can actually wear them with glasses. Here's another question. Has everyone ever used a virtual reality set for work rather than for play? I think I'm probably going to get nothing on there. I should have asked the question the other way around, shouldn't I? Alan's a no, just to play, haha. They are becoming more and more popular for work environments. And we do discuss it when we talk about remote support and how we can do remote support. But you can imagine talking to someone, put your VR headset on, they have their phone and stuff, and they can visually see what you're seeing. And you can point them in the direction. You can say you need to press that button. Well, hold, it's not that button because you can actually point to the button and you can see where you're pointing. So they are becoming great. They are great for, as I say, remote support is really what they get used for. Microsoft is quite keen in data centers. Potentially you will see them because they can be used for remote hands. Well, remote hands is a data center tech who basically walks around and carries out work on behalf of a third person. They are good, as a few people have pointed out there. Ronald and Magel's basically points out sometimes you do get motion sickness with them. Well, the work ones are integrating with things such as SharePoint. You can build SharePoint sites in 3D now. So you can basically manipulate and drag things in 3 dimensions nowadays in SharePoint. They're quite good fun. Not mainstream yet, but they'll probably will get there. So other devices we kind of consider and tend to be accessories. We know our good old friendly webcams. Okay, webcams are built into a lot of computers, but they are also sold separately. They're great for video recording. Other items, they have high definition, they zoom in and out. So they are kind of partially on the mobile devices on there. Earphones, we know we are Bluetooth or for earphones or wired. So they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes with the closed cup or the earbuds or the tiny ones that fit behind your ear. You can also get the, was it the bone microphones, bone earphones that basically just vibrate on the side of your head. They are very useful for runners. Certainly if you're running in something like one of the marathons or a professional style race, you're not allowed to wear earphones that go into your ears. You're not allowed to wear earbuds or closed cups, but they will let you wear the bone vibration ones. No idea how good they are. Never tried them myself. Of course, we have some microphones which come in all varieties and shapes and sizes. So you can get microphones that are standard ones that come on your PCs. Oh, hold on, try to do this. Hope it doesn't unplug. I use one of these microphones. This is a Trust one. Yeti do some really good microphones. And they're obviously designed to be better quality depending on the size and the capabilities of those. And then definitely last but not least, there's a charging. So we now know we are hooked to electricity 101, aren't we? So all these mobile devices that we have need chargers, and they come in different shapes, sizes, and different forms, don't they? And indeed, now we do the cableless charging. So we basically do charging of our devices, as you can see on the charger platform there, just by proximity. Hey, got any questions about other mobile devices? Anyone got any others they'd like to mention? I can see Peter comments there. First time experience with it was eyes mindset dropping. Okay, that's grand. No comments in there. That's fantastic. We will just drop on to the accessories. Now, we all know with devices getting smaller and smaller, what we do run out when we finally put the thing on the desk is we run out of ports. Is a good example of a MacBook Air. Modern MacBook Air, I think, only has one USB-C, possibly two USB-Cs on it. So there's no HDMI connection. There's nothing else that basically allows you to connect to additional devices that you might want to plug in. There's certainly no port for a LAN connection on the MacBook Airs nowadays. So what we do is we kind of get a port replicator. This is a standard port replicator. Was it a JTech, iTech port replicator that I've got there? And you see, we can plug in multiple devices. They are designed to allow us to do multiple things on there. And they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Okay, so here's a nice simple one. This one itself comes with a network connection and a couple of additional ports. That says you've got a HDMI port, you've got two USB connections and a USB-C connection. And the benefit of this literally means that I can plug, if I've got a hot desk, for example, I can simply leave all this plugged in on my hot desk, just unplug the single cable, the single USB-C from there, and I can take my laptop away wherever I like. Then when I come back, I can simply plug the one cable in and bang, everything else is up and running. I don't have to plug anything else in. I don't have to worry where the cables are. I can tidy the cables away on my desk and hide this little device, and it all works beautiful. Peter, I don't think the iPhone 5 OS got updated, but I don't know. It's 5 or 6 years out of date. My phone is one of the new modern ones. Apple basically took a decision a while ago. They were going, let's make bigger and bigger, bigger, and they were doing 8.5, 9-inch phones. And then, strangely enough, there was a bit of a rebellion against it because everyone was buying the 5Cs. Everyone wanted the smaller ones. So they said, okay, we still need to make the smaller phone devices. So you will now find them called minis rather than the maxes or anything like that. So they do still do the same 5.5-inch, I think they were, phones. And that's indeed what I purchase all the time. Marty, yes, we are very much heading towards an era where everything else will be wireless. Okay, but you have to go fairly careful about that. Yes, we love wireless, but when we talk about networking and LANs and things like that, we'll have a discussion around that. But the really tricky thing about wireless is, of course, you're broadcasting. So if I only run my laptop on a wireless network, I'm broadcasting that between my laptop and my router. That means someone can hack into it. It also makes it a little bit susceptible to weather conditions and other environmental things like brick walls and things like that. So we still do have cables. The cables are still faster than the wireless connections. Yeah, we might drift in that sort of direction. I think what was interesting, what USB-C did, which was gorgeous for everything for our mobile devices, was, as you can see on that port replicator, I have one USB-C cable that I plug into my laptop. Excuse me. And everything runs through that. So I have a single cable that is now running my USB ports, my headphones, my SD cards, my HDMI. So essentially, I'm running a second monitor out of that as well. It runs my LAN. It possibly runs my VGA if I have a monitor that old. As you can see, so I can literally run loads of things out of a single hole in my laptop, which is what USB-C did. In the past, with the old USB ones, you literally have to have a port for, I'm trying to think of a device. I was about to say port for charging, a port for your phone, a port for your camera, a port for your microphone, a port for your speakers. So that's all of a sudden you've got 3 ports. USB-C just went, yeah, we can plug the lot. And that was one of the big deals. Any questions about port replicators? So for show of hands, who's got a port replicator at home? Great, isn't it? I mean, I don't even have to plug a power cable into my laptop because the whole lot goes through this port replicator. So I have a power in on the left-hand side that you can see there. And that I plug a power socket for a USB-C straight into that port replicator, and that pushes the power to my laptop. Now, we will mention them, but you are unlikely to see them. Before we had beautiful USB-Cs, we used to have docking stations. Docking stations were used for laptops, and you will actually see if you've got an old laptop, certainly a Dell, I think these are two Dell, this is one Dell, this is a Dell one. On the underside of it, you literally had a section that would open, and you'd simply drop your laptop onto it. And as you can see there, there's a lot of cable connections. So that essentially was repeating what the USB-C did. Okay, this would be able to charge your laptop, and you simply drop it into the cradle. Now, some of them were vertical cradles, so you'd slide your laptop in vertically. Some of them were horizontal, so you'd simply drop your laptop horizontally. Some had ejection buttons because they physically clipped in, and some didn't. They were good at the time, but they were outdated by the USB-C stuff. Has anyone ever used one of these, a docking station, before on a laptop? No, first time seeing one. Yeah, not a surprise really. Sebastian hasn't used it. Marty, yeah, first time seeing one. I think they kind of went out of fashion probably 10 to 15 years ago. That's probably me being a bit exaggeration, but Alan's seen tons of them. I had 3 docks, 1 keyboard, 1 laptop, and 2 monitors. Fantastic, Paul. Well done. Mostly HPs and Targus. I know I used to see them with Dells and Toshibas. Nowadays, as I say, they're all basically semi-replaced by the USB-C sections. Paul uses one on a Nova. Yeah, okay, definitely good. I think the closest that I'm going to see one nowadays is I'm trying to think of what it is. Nintendo. The Nintendo Switch has a docking station for its little device. Slots into a little cradle, and that allows you to put it onto the big screen. Not going to see it on a laptop anymore, I don't think. Yet to be proven wrong. Okay, so all our mobile devices, we're moving on to display components now. So all our mobile devices obviously relate to us with a display. Okay, so how does the display basically work? Its touchscreen displays are fantastic, and there are 2 flavors of touchscreens. Okay, we have what's known as a resistive touchscreen. This is the older but cheaper type, like cheap, the older but cheaper type. Okay, it has a low sensitivity and low accuracy and low durability. So this basically works by reducing the resistivity between 2 particular points, and that's how it knew where the location was. And you can see there it kind of flexes the screen a bit. Modern ones, newer, more popular type, most of your phones are basically going to be capacitive types. It basically was highly sensitive and highly accurate, and that's why we kind of moved across to those. Now, most displays, and you will find this on your phones, have a certain number of points they can actually activate. Okay, your phone, I think, is probably about 5 or 6 or something like that, depending on the make and model you've got. Certainly well above 2, because you need to do pinching, don't you? Okay, but a lot of monitors, when you buy a touchscreen monitor, it will say X number of touch points can be activated. Okay, so potentially you can do your good old-fashioned 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 25 type touchscreens. Well, we don't care about your spelling, as long as you're typing something and it's good. Okay, and the benefit of the capacitive ones is also that you know they can be very solid. They're highly durable, but I say that bearing in mind the amount of times I have to replace my son's because he's dropped his phone is ridiculous. It's just incredible how often people will actually break these things and then ask for them to be replaced. Could just be my experience with my kids. Okay, so let's have a little overview of essentially what an LCD is. So LCD stands for liquid crystal display. Okay, basically use layers of crystals that's sandwiched together with a polymer to produce light. So you basically put an electricity through it and the liquid crystal will then basically give you a bit of light. So LCDs basically require a backlight. The backlight means that the thing warms up. So it's constantly on. Even though you're seeing black, that just means the crystal is blocking all the light that's coming through it. Okay. Now the difference between that and an LED is an LED is a light emitting diode. Well, these are great things because they do some beautiful stuff, and an even bigger benefit of an LED. Oh, must have skipped about 8 through there. My apologies, people. Jump straight to slide 56. We can't have that, can we? There we go. Okay. So the benefit of the LED is we can do something called OLED. Okay, it stands for organic light emitting diode. It's a type of display technology that uses layers of organic components that emit light when electric current is applied. But the benefit of this is, of course, they do not require any backlight, so the system does not constantly drive power into it, so they can last for longer in terms of battery life because it produces its own light. And one of the benefits of this is, of course, we can make them flexible. Who's got one of those new flip snappy phones that you can fold in two? Let's have a show of hands for anyone who's got one of those. Alan doesn't, that's good. Well, it's not good, sorry. It's good to know that you haven't got one. I've tried them in a shop. Sebastian, did you like them? I mean, obviously they are going to work. I looked at them, and every time I closed it, I was literally bricking myself, thinking I've got to snapped it. It's broken, because that's what we used to. You flex the screen, it breaks. Every time I opened it, and closed it, I expected to open it and have it broken. Not brought one. I kind of prefer my little iPhone anyway. Only when the technology improves. I think they're still having some problems, but they're still having problems. They're still having fun basically producing them. They are getting more and more reliable. They are getting better and better. But I'm confident after about 1 or 2 years of constantly doing this with it, I'm sure it's not going to be quite as good as it should have done. Good stuff. So, common faults and breakages. So we know LCD and OLED displays are both susceptible to various types of faults and breakages. Yes, we can get dead pixels on them. So dead pixels are basically little areas that the system has failed. They will appear not to light up or they'll display incorrect colors. Okay, every manufacturer will tell you they can have a certain percentage, it's normally massively small, of dead pixels before they consider the display to be faulty. The other form is burn-in. This isn't so common nowadays. Okay, it can affect LCDs and OLED, but really it's more noticeable on previous screens. Certainly the CRT monitors, OLED monitors or OLED devices can basically suffer from the burn-in from the organic compound degrading faster than essentially the liquid crystal displays. So you can get burn-in. It's sort of back on OLED devices. And then we have our good old-fashioned cracks. Yes, if you drop a device, it cracks, it messes it up, it prevents the connections coming through. and that causes all sorts of issues with it. At that stage, you are really looking at replacing the display. Can we still replace displays? Apple are getting a bit funny about some of the displays. They're looking for part codes and things like that to be correct on some of their models, the later models, so they get replaced by genuine Apple resellers. But I can't see the other people doing that. I think everything is still going to come around that you can still replace your own if you have the skills. Well, the patience, I think, is part of it. So replacement and considerations. You can replace the faulty LCD and OLED displays. It can be costly. Is it comparable with replacing an entire device? Probably not. It's probably cheaper to get that done than everything else. Be aware for warranty. So warranty, you have to go really careful and make sure you can show that if it isn't a waterproof device, that you haven't dropped it down the toilet, or that you haven't banged it or dropped it or anything like that. So read the manufacturers and sellers' terms and conditions on that. Costs obviously going to vary depending on where you're taking it to. And of course, there's a risk. If you're doing it yourself, potentially you might damage other things. Go massively careful, and I'll stress this, go massively careful opening any mobile device. Watch the battery. The batteries in them are very sensitive. I can't remember if it was last week or the other week. They are very sensitive. If you stick a knife or something like that through your battery, potentially your phone will simply catch fire. Okay, you will have the same for the modern laptops that run on the more higher performance batteries. I bet Ragged can find an image of a battery phone getting cut in half and burning up. There's a challenge for you, Ragged. You've got about 5 minutes. Feel free to poke it into the live chat. Okay, so there is obviously a risk in doing it. I took my daughter's iPhone 8 apart, accidentally flexed the battery slightly. The battery started heating up. Yeah, that was straight in the bin. Fireproof bin I used. But yes, that thing was never going to work again. So you have to go careful when you are trying to do these. Any questions about replacement considerations? Probably one question I expect to see is can you replace screens on laptops? Can we replace screens on on other tablet devices? Generally, I think the answer is yes. I mean, Kaplan says yes, Smelchek, yes. Let's put a hand up. Let's see how many people in this lesson have basically replaced a display. Not talking about swapping your monitor over, but physically opened a device and replaced a display. Oh, Kaplan, Alan, Alcek, good to see. I know when I first did it, I was horribly nervous. There are so many YouTube videos out there that tell you what to do. First time I did it, I was horribly nervous. One thing I would say, go massively careful, not just the battery, I'm not worried so much about the battery now. When you are looking for parts, the different make and models and the serial numbers can literally, I could buy an iPhone like this, an iPhone 11, and depending on when I purchased it, what country I purchased it, it might well have a different display on it. Okay, so you have to be careful, making sure you match the models, the serial numbers, and making sure it is the right one for those particular devices, because they are just slightly out at times. Not so much slightly different sizes, but slightly different connections inside. Apple might have improved some of those. iFix is a great iFix IT. Is that a great tool? Peter Neville says he did one as well. Well done. Sorry, I should have just said Peter, isn't it? Peter, well done. So don't be shy about thinking about replacing them, but be very careful when you do it. So application and usage, let's just cover that. So smartphones and tablets, OLED displays, wearable smart devices, or again, OLED displays are really good for that. And VR and AR headsets we can use OLED on. Are we moving towards everything OLED? Potentially. It is the new emerging technology. It is more flexible, but again, there is some screen burn potentials on there and there are some issues. Right, Gib. Let me check. Well, within 5 minutes, thank you very much. Perfect. So you can see in the live chat there, you can see an iPhone that's damaged and literally caught fire. That's what happens when you damage the battery. Crikey, who's ready for a Kahoot quiz? I'll give some of you a chance just to rejoin or join that if it's fallen off, but we are ready for our Kahoot. See a couple of you joining. Thanks, Precious, Joe. Hi, Chris. Perfect. Okay, so fingers at the ready. Fastest fingers, remember, gets most points. I can see just one or two more people starting joining 2020. That's about right, isn't it? 2025. If you're having problems, then let us know in live chat and we can hold it up a bit, but I think we're ready to go. Great stuff. First question on mobiles then. LCD stands for a lot of quick questions, a lot of quick fingers going in there. Well done, people. 14 people straight in. Wow, everyone pat themselves on the back. 18 people smashed that out of the park. Well done. Liquid crystal displays. Well done. Who was fastest though? Lovely cuddly dog. Yeah, we'll have to put a comedy answer in every now and again, don't we? That's got to be really close to the top, hasn't it? 959. Paul, you've got to feel robbed not to get joint first. See if the second question will separate the two of you. So the common faults on LED and LED. Well done, man. Crikey, that's fantastic. Dead pixels, burnt in images, and cracks. Gaussing effect was something, just for information, gaussing effect was something we used to have with the CRT monitors, which are the ones we used to fire electrons at. Essentially, it was an electron at the back of the screen, and then the big chunky ones. So they fire electrons to the front, and when it hit the screen, it would then basically light up as the electrons were hitting it. We had to degauss it because it had two magnets in that screen that the electrons got shot past on the way through that controlled where they were going. Paul, you made it up secondly, didn't you there? Well done, Paul. Max, Sebastian in there, Mardi, Zachariah, all in with a chance. Let's have a look then. Everyone's in with a chance, let's be honest. Multi-select. What are the two types of touch screen? Oh, I don't feel. I think some people are trying to be a little bit too quick when they type this one and pick bold. Now we have the resistive one and the capacitive. Well done, everyone. Let's see where that leaves us before we carry on with the rest of the lecture. Sebastian at the top, then Max. Andres with a highest answer, 3 streak highest answer. Well done. There is more Kahoot later, don't worry. So we're going to drift into connectivity. So mobile devices have multiple ways of connecting to each other. Okay, network connections are more and more wireless than wired nowadays, but you know, they kind of drop into two categories, don't they? A wireless and a wired connection for most of these things. We know during this, the transmission will carry data signal without using physical connect cables. But let's have a little look at a few of things. So wireless device connectings. So wireless connectivity can fall into several categories here. So radio frequency, RF. Radio frequencies are normally electromagnetic waves that are transmitted data. Okay, these go through the air. There are things such as our 5G, our 4G signal, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and satellite. They are all basically radio frequencies. And then there's infrared. So infrared is basically a direct light transmission. We don't tend to use this so much now. It used to be quite popular with TV sets. You had your infrared TV controller, you're clicking things across. Not so popular nowadays. They were good for wireless headphones because you weren't moving too much. And then we also have a optical connection. So these use visible light, or essentially laser, which is still in our sight range. And they can use signals across air, such as Li-Fi, free space optical communications. It's interesting to note that one of the big jumps between 4G and 5G, 4G was basically set to run at about 1 gigabit per second. 5G is up to 10 gigabits per second. So you've got massive data. We used to dream about having 1 gigabit coming across a network cable, let alone across wireless stuff. It's fantastic progress. So with all radio frequencies on wireless devices, they are put into particular bands. Okay, they cannot, if you're basically producing a device, you cannot just go, I'm going to broadcast frequencies on any frequency I fancy. No, there are regulations. People that manage the skies will tell you that, because there are special frequencies for aeroplanes used. There's special frequencies for what's known as non-directional beacons and directional beacons that are used in aerials. Okay, so they fall into particular categories. You can see there, generally, the stuff that we are likely to be using is going to be between 100 kilohertz and 300 gigahertz. And that's our radio frequency. Then we kind of drop into infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays. And the other direction, we move into our low frequencies. Doing really well on this. Any questions about the wireless frequencies? We'll actually drop on to talk to those a bit more. So Wi-Fi is probably the most common way that we connect our mobile devices nowadays. Okay, but as I said beforehand, it is a broadcast, so people can intercept it. It is encrypted data. So if they can break the encryption, they can simply sit there and read all our data. The big difference between something like a Wi-Fi and a Bluetooth, and indeed the NFC, we'll park in tethering to one side just for a second, is the range that they basically work for. So Wi-Fi has a really decent range. Bluetooth is about 22 feet, if I dare use feet instead of meters. So 22 feet. NFC is a wireless technology. This is the one that allows us to do contactless. Okay, so they've got to be pretty much next to each other. Tethering, we now know we use. Who's ever used data tethering on their mobile phones? To tether something, for example, like a laptop to your mobile phone, to use the mobile phone data network on a 4 or 5G system. Yeah, so quite a few of you have. Alan, Rollo, Precious, fantastic. Hablam. I remember when I was young, it was absolute revolution. I could actually plug a mobile phone into a laptop. We had to plug it in. They didn't have no, didn't have so much wireless then or Bluetooth connections. Actually plug a mobile phone into a laptop and I could send my emails. That was beautiful, wasn't it? I didn't have to plug anything in. I could just take a laptop. I type all my emails in Outlook, plug it in, get it connected, and you hit send, and it would send a whole lot, one big package, off it goes. Close it down, and then you didn't burn up so much of your network data on the time. That was when you had to pay fortunes for roaming network data and things. Nowadays, yeah, everyone does it, don't we? We simply tether it up, on we go with a laptop. And indeed, the signal, in theory, on my 5G network, will probably get close to matching what I can get on a proper cabled network nowadays. So we're moving more and more away from physically needing some cables to our systems. But the cables, I don't stress, are much more reliable. No, Ronald, that's a very good question. Is it different from a hotspot? No. No and a yes. Hotspots get used in two terminologies. Yes, I can basically I can configure this to be a hotspot. So I can connect to it, or anyone can connect to this and then get out to the data network. But hotspots are also used for things like cafes and things like that will have a mobile hotspot. So if you walk into a McDonald's or a Starbucks or something like that, they will go, oh, we've got a mobile hotspot, which essentially is your Wi-Fi connection. They used to be quite popular calling them hotspots. Nowadays, it's just a Wi-Fi connection. We get them everywhere, going to pubs, restaurants, every place you go to says, oh, we've got a Wi-Fi connection. First thing my children ask for whenever we go out, walk into somewhere, oh, what's the Wi-Fi security code? Can I get onto the net? No, eat your dinner. It's only me, isn't it? So different, they are pretty much similar for hotspots. So I think we're going to go through a couple more slides. Just we're going to go through some wireless connectivities, and then we'll probably have a 10-minute break. So a little while before we have a quick break. So wireless device connectivities, OS, Wi-Fi, and mobile data issues. Okay. There are times when your Wi-Fi and mobile data is simply just not working. But let's have a little look at a few things on this. If you're using an Android mobile and you have mobile data issues on there, we kind of cover this very lightly, so you don't need to know all the big details. But you know you can go into the settings, into System Advanced Reset option and reset your network settings. That can be done both on the iOS as well as on your Android system. And the reason we do this is because just like when we connect through a network, a proper network, as in a LAN network, the network settings are stored on our phone. And every time we basically reconnect it, we should be getting new network settings. So if I've moved from one location to an area that the network settings are totally different, through no fault of my own, could be it's just connected to a different mast or something, it's possible that my network setting connections are incorrect. So if we reset them, it's like asking again for the details of how to get to a place. And that normally will fix most of your Wi-Fi and mobile data issues. Now there's a big list of items down there. I'm not going to read through them all. Well, I'll read through some of them. Some of them are very interesting, such as checking your mobile data limits. Okay, forgetting paired devices. I know certainly if I've got paired devices that aren't working, then it's definitely worth hitting the forget paired device and then reconnecting up to it. One way to quickly get it to potentially reset some of your network setting is basically turn airplane mode on and off. And again, we can do the same for Bluetooth because that resets the setting. And we can turn off data roaming and turn that back on again. That's a good question. How have you used VPNs, virtual private networking, for your connections? So a quick show of hands for who uses VPN. We do go into VPNs later on. So when we talk about security. Yeah, so imagine Alan, Paul, Proton all the way, Luca. They can of course interfere with some of the data that you're using with. Potentially they aren't, and they're not designed to do that. But potentially turning that off may re-establish your wireless network connections. Especially on public networks. God, public network. We talk about that in personal security, Marty. Yes. I might let you lead that one if you've had that fun before. And then, of course, now we know we've got wireless connections. We talk about the wireless connections. So we do have loads of connection available to us. So wired connections, as I've said, offer more stability. Okay, they are physical connections. They also have different speeds and different capabilities, and they come through different connection types. So we have our good old-fashioned common ones that you run into are our USB ones. We talked about USB-Cs, USB 2s, and things like that. They originally started up with the regular USB 1, then went 2, 3, 4. Strangely enough, they were counting. Then they went, oh, we're going to call it C now. So USB-Cs. HDMI has also gone through several iterations. The connection is probably the same, but again, that went through from 1.4 to 2 to 2.1. And the features basically show the different resolution, different bandwidths, different capabilities of all. Now, a lot of the connections were also dealing with things such as the Apple industry, the Apple end of things, basically developed things such as our Lightning connection, okay, which is a proprietary connection for Apple, used for their mobile devices and things. And also Thunderbolt, which is another one, which connects capable of developed by Intel and Apple for their devices, such as the MacBook, iMacs, and Mac Minis. They're good, but we're talking a fair few years ago, so we don't really need to worry about those. Most of our stuff is nowadays done through HDMI and USB connections. Anyone else plug anything in different wired connections for their mobile and portable devices? Please don't tell me there's anyone using a VGA cable still. I bet you're all raring to go. So let's have a little look at our next Kahoot quiz. Oh, Peter's asked a question there. That's good. Let's have a look at that question. Is it possible for me to remove someone's Bluetooth from a Bluetooth loudspeaker through my phone that is connected to the same Bluetooth speaker device? You'd have to do that on the Bluetooth speaker. So the Bluetooth speaker will recognize any device that attempts to connect to it that it has connected to before. There will be on your Bluetooth device, on your Bluetooth speaker, potentially if you want to disconnect, you'll probably have to go, I would probably say go to a factory reset. Do a factory reset for that device. That'll forget all its Bluetooth settings, and then just have you, and then just add yourself on it separately. Does that answer that one for you, Peter? You wouldn't be able to force it from your phone to disconnect or forget who they are. That good, Peter? Did you understand that? I think Peter's probably just getting himself warmed up, ready for the Kahoot question. So Sebastian's at the lead. Max is in there. Marty, Zachariah, Joe, all in there. Let's have the next question then. A little puzzle block. Put these in order of distance of possible connectivity. Shortest at the top, longest at the bottom. You want to place the shortest one at the top and the longest at the bottom. Ah, there you go then. So the reason we have this, well, we asked this question very simply. So near field communication, we know it's pretty much contact. So you have to get very, very close to it. And this is our contactless payment methods. Okay, that's what it's used for. Bluetooth, as I said, tends to only go for about 20 feet, 22 feet, if that. So it tends to be used in room. So if you're in the room, that's great. If you're out of the room, not quite good. It could be going to be good enough. Wi-Fi, we know we can expand Wi-Fi and we can do it over a fair distance. We don't have to be in the same room. I think you can probably get it to about 100 feet. As I'm using feet, I'm sticking in feet. Probably quite happily to 100 feet. They use this in stadiums. So you can imagine turning up at Wembley Stadium and connecting to someone's Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's going to be longer than Bluetooth. Certainly going to be a lot longer than near field communications. And then there's radio frequency. Who knows the furthest distance? Here's a cracking question that I know I'm horrible asking it because I don't think anyone's going to know any answers. What's the furthest radio frequencies that we are sending and receiving at the moment? Gamma rays. How far away are we sending these radio frequencies? Oh, Alan! Crikey, there's a bucket of sweets coming your way. Thank you, Alan. That's very good. I asked this question many times and no one ever gets it anywhere near right. Moon or planets then, so Mardi. So Voyager 1 still basically uses radio frequencies to communicate with it. Still within our solar, is it in our solar system? I can't remember how far Voyager 1 is out actually now. But yes, so we are transferring radio frequencies, bang, miles away, aren't we? Okay, and that essentially forms what's known as our deep space network. So we're chatting to Voyager 1, we're chatting to Voyager 2. We also use it for the lander missions. So when we basically drop a lander onto somewhere like Mars or crash one into the sun, we're communicating with radio frequencies. Yeah, it's getting a little bit long in the tooth. Well, long in the tooth. Doesn't it take about 6 hours to get there and back or something crazy like that? They send a little message. 6 hours later, they kind of get a response. That sort of distances. Very good. Well done if you got that right. Unlucky if you didn't. See how that affects it. Oh, Max jumping up there. Good work. Paul coming up, Gabino. One more question in this Kahoot round. Let's see how quickly people get this one right. Okay, not many people got that one right. I can't even see the answer. What was the question on there? That's terrible, isn't it? I can't even see the question myself, isn't it? My apologies, people. Let me just see if I can. True or false? Yeah, I can't read the question. Mine gets covered up. Oh, I should have prepped that one a bit better, shouldn't I? So I want to type the question into live chat or copy and paste it. Only because I can't see that one. Ah, there you go. Okay. So essentially, yes, it is false. Okay. I can only use data tethering if I plug my device into my mobile. We don't need to physically plug it in nowadays. I know the term plugging in is a bit vague. Plugging in I use for proper cables. We can connect it with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, which means we're not physically plugging it in. I know why I set that question. Jim, I can't read it. I'm going to have to look at my screen adjustments there. See how that affects the top. Sebastian smashing it out at the top there. Max, Marty, well done. Okay, just a couple more slides then, and then we'll look for having a break. So mobile device apps, we know there are lots of apps available. I mean, there is that famous phrase in there that there's an app for that was used when Apple started developing apps and having the App Store. Okay, we know mobile devices on loads of apps. It's not just all about games. There's other devices and phone systems on there. I use one on my phone that regularly allows me to draw a wireless map, a wireless heat map that tells me where I'm getting decent signals and where we're not getting decent signals. And then I can wander around companies and adjust the access points accordingly to give them better coverage. Okay, according to some statistics, there's 3.1 million apps available on Google Play and 2 million apps available on the Apple Store. Massive amount. And that was the third quarter of 2020. So there's obviously loads more now. There's a quick bonus point for anyone that can tell me why there are more available on Google Play than there are on the Apple Store. Android, yeah. Why there? No screening, Paul. Thank you very much. One of the big reasons is, yes, it's much more open for everyone. If you want to write an app on Google Play, you write an app and go bang, I'll stick it on Google Play. They do very few checks. If you want to put it on the App Store, you have to write it, you have to hand it to Apple and go, Apple, please test it for a couple of months for me. Check through it, make sure it's okay and it's not going to crash anything. And then Apple will then put that onto the App Store. Okay, so it's not open. Great stuff. So before we jump into the next page, which is going to be mobile apps, accounts, and extensions, I think we probably deserve a tea, coffee, little comfort break. Let's have that for 10 minutes then, shall we? Look forward to speaking to you all in a couple of minutes. I hope you enjoyed your quick grab of a coffee, your comfort break, your apple or your banana, and are sitting comfortably ready for the second part of our mobile devices lecture. Let's see if we can have a thumbs up for people that can see the mobile apps, accounts, and extensions. Precious, thank you very much. Fastest fingers there. Maximilian, Marty, Paul, Ronell, amazing stuff. That's good. Zachariah, Ernest, Alan, Fintan. Okay, we're all ready to go then. But without further ado, let's have a little chat about the mobile apps and extensions. So we tend to break these into several categories, okay? Mobile apps and extensions. So there's native apps. These are the ones that are kind of provided with the phone. So they're specifically for running the operating systems, GPS, other containers. And then there's web apps, which are the ones that basically are used for the web browser and do not require installation on the device. Web apps usually use something like a HTML or CSS or JavaScript to basically gain access to different materials and have different orientations. And then there's hybrid apps. And the hybrid apps are apps that combine both those sets of features. Okay, they're essentially web apps that are wrapped in a native app container. And then the last, but nowhere near least, I know we've all got these, is gaming apps. Okay, they're apps basically designed for fun and entertainment. We also have our very friendly or unfriendly, depending on which way you look at it, social media apps. Indeed, these are things such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, all those lovely products that we basically have where we interact with each other on a social level. These are all available on our mobile devices. I'm sure you all know already. We also have our utility apps. These are things that allow us to manage tasks, calculators, calendars, weathers, alarms and flashlights for when we get caught in the dark with no torch. And we also have lifestyle apps. Okay, I've got a couple of lifestyle apps on here trying to keep me running in my old age, as they say. Yes, help me with my fitness and travel, music, shopping, dating. Oh, dating. I haven't used the dating app for years. From my old days when I was a company that did dating apps. That was years ago. And then we have our essential brain training, our education apps. So for a show of hands for anyone who's used something like a brain training app or a puzzle game or something like that to try and help them get educated, or even a language app. If you have, feel free to smash the name of it in there. Duolingo. Which language, Ronel? Mardi as well. Same question applies for you. German, that's interesting. Never thought about learning German properly. French, mathematics, crikey. There's no day that isn't a learning day with a phone in your hand, is there? I started doing the French Duolingo, but found there wasn't, for me, I don't want to learn to write the language. I want to learn to speak it. My French is mediocre. I do English French. I can get past in a holiday resort or something like that. I can order drinks, get taxis, find out what time dinner is, and all that sort of thing. But yeah, as soon as you get into conversational French, that's where I want to practice. Brain puzzles, Babel for Italian. Yeah, Babel's one of the other popular ones, isn't it, Precious? Brilliant as well. That's good. Yeah. From Maximilian and Alan basically uses those. Okay, so we do know we use those educational apps. And then there are things such as our productivity apps that help us manage tasks, documents, and emails. Okay, we all use an email system on that. And we can use task managing systems on there, can't we? Don't anyone use any of those? I know I'll throw one in there. I use Trello for managing my list of things to do. Unfortunately, I do share my Trello with my girlfriend, so she keeps putting things on there to make me do them. Life for you, isn't it? Life in a relationship. Notes all the time. Yeah, Trello. Yeah, Alan. Paul, well done for using notes, Alan. Yeah, Trello. Marty notes. I discovered the other day you can share your notes on Apple. If you're on an iPhone, if you're on a notepad, you can actually share that with your mates and your friends, and they can all just chuck things in there. I didn't know that. I think it's a recent update. I hope it is, either I've missed that for ages, haven't I? And then, of course, we have our photos, don't we? Do we have health apps? Yes, there are definitely health apps on there. In the UK, we have a product called NHS, which is a NHS health app, so I can access all my health records on my mobile phone. I can tell you when I last had things such as a COVID jab, a variety of blood tests that you get at my age, and that sort of thing, as well as when my last appointment was and things like along those lines. No, I go to the doctors a lot. Like it's been ages since I've been there. But definitely fitness apps on there. What's the cycling one that is no longer a cycling one? That's a fitness app. I have to look it up now, haven't I? Strava, yep, Strava. Got a friend who's heavily into Strava as one of the apps for his fitness. He constantly tells me, even if I go for a run or a cycle, if it's not on Strava, it didn't happen. Just won't believe me. Why health app? Yes, so there are billions out there. Well done for throwing those in there. Huge privacy issue with them. Yes, certainly health apps, there can be privacy issues with fitness apps and training apps and things such as that. And of course, our photos. We know we store videos, pictures to basically spank onto Instagram and Snapchat, don't we? Peter, tell me more about the one you called Doctolib before I drop into the mobility and clouds. Paul, that's hilarious. Strava mapped an unmarked US Army base. It's not going to be fun, is it? See several of you typing, so I won't dive into this one. Thanks, Ragib. There's some interesting stuff coming from Ragib there. Good work. Used to book appointments and doctors. Peter, it's exactly the same as our NHS app. And yes, you use booked appointments and stuff. Okay, so we now know that we live in a cloud-based environment. Okay, we live in a world where access to information is available on our devices as we wander around the street. Smartphones, tablets, laptops, watches, it becomes more and more available, doesn't it? However, having multiple devices causes the problems. Okay, how can we access the same information on each device without having to transfer them manually? Years ago, before cloud computing, if I broke my laptop, I would literally have to reinstall and recreate exactly the same applications on my new laptop. I had to reinstall my data from somewhere, possibly from a physical backup that I took. In the modern world that we're basically in, now we basically use the cloud computing. So everything tends to connect to the cloud. So if I drop my iPhone accidentally in the toilet, I say it's a waterproof one, so probably a bad example. If I let my son smash my iPhone with a hammer, he's not that young, literally I can order a new iPhone, I can plug it in, I can go, this is my account, and he goes, right, I'm just going to download what you had on your old phone. Bang, off you go. Reset, 30 minutes. Thanks for coming. Okay, because all the data is now pushed up onto the cloud with web browsing and all that sort of information. It is amazing what you can do, and it helps not lose things. Certainly in the old days, if you had something like a fire in your house, you burnt all your pictures or your photos. Nowadays, all my photos are up in the cloud. So touch wood, there is something that basically goes wrong and I have a major incident at home, I do not lose all my pictures. So there are cloud services out there, and we know there's common ones here that are basically stated. So we use these cloud service providers to basically manage our data. Google Apps, Apple, Microsoft, Google Drive, don't we have Google Docs, Google Photos, Gmail, basically, and it manages all our Google items. Yeah, we're gonna have a show. We're gonna have a little poll here, okay? Let's have a little scary poll. We're gonna have a little poll. Type a G if you use Google apps, and an M if you use the Microsoft ones, and an A if you just use Apple. Good poll to the class, I think, on this. See if we get some rough splits in. So if you're using Google apps, oh, Alan's coming in with 2. G and Google and Microsoft. Ronald's a Google, Precious Google. Paul Burgess is all of them. You know, you shouldn't. It's a choice thing, isn't it? Maximilian's a Google. Marty's all 3. Joseph is Google and Microsoft. Gabitsu uses Brave. Which one's Brave? Is that just to store your data? I tend to fall into a lot of the mainstream ones rather than using the others. Luke is a Google. I can see a couple of you typing away there. I use Brave web browser. Fantastic. So I know I definitely, because of the jobs I do, I have to stay in touch with all the technology. So I do use Google Apps and I use Microsoft Cloud, and I've obviously got my Apple stuff. So I do use the Apple Cloud as well. So we use all 3, and they are fantastic for managing and sticking stuff in the cloud. Well, I don't have to worry about it being on my devices. I don't have to worry so much if I have something damaged or lose something. What you have to do is you have to manage your device account. So we need to basically make sure they're all linked across. So if you have multiple mobile devices, such as smartphones, tablets, and laptops, you want to access them on a different platform and applications. Yes, you might want to use mail or social media and stuff. Nowadays, we simply log on with a single account, and that gets us access to everything, no matter which device we're using. So if I was to use a MacBook Pro, I would get same access to the stuff that I basically have on my iPhone. Same data, same pictures, same fun. But CompTIA A Plus does ask us to basically go through a couple of accounts. Okay, so things you probably need to know. Managing accounts on your Android. We can go to the settings, accounts, the add account. You can basically select the add accounts. None of this is rocket science. I'm assuming that all of you have done this sort of thing before. And to remove an account, again, you go back into the account settings, tap the account you want to remove, and you hit the remove button. On, off, isn't it? It's really easy. That's basically done through the settings. On an iOS system, you can go to the accounts and passwords of the settings. And there you can have multiple accounts. Indeed, I have several accounts on my iPhone. That does include both a Google account as well as a Microsoft account as well as an Android account. So they're pretty much all on there. So if you want to do this on a Windows device, our Windows device now has a very handy menu, which suggests we can add accounts. Again, everything is linking into the same. We do this the same way. We go to settings, accounts. Same on Windows, same on Android, same on the Apple iOS. Okay, and when you go to the Microsoft accounts one, you can basically add an email, and then you can select whether or not you want it to be a Google Chrome one, sorry, a Microsoft one, or a Chrome one, or a Yahoo Mail. And we can drop those on. So this is a iPhone example here. So when we go through, there are several options we do have when we're adding email. This is adding email on a mobile devices. As you can see on the iPhone, straight away, it asks us what flavor of email it is. So it could be iCloud, Exchange, Google, Yahoo even, AOL, Outlook, depending on the type of connection that we're connecting through to. Now, normally it's enough for us simply to pick that and tell it who we are. Sometimes it's not quite enough. Now, in the old days, we used to use products such as an IMAP mail server. And we probably have to fill in things such as our host name, our username, and our password. And then we'd have to have an outgoing service, because remember, mail is two-directional. So not only is mail coming into your system, it's also going out of your system. So we'd have to set a host name for our incoming mail server and a host name for our outgoing mail server. Now, a lot of the time, those are exactly the same. Sometimes they were different. So IMAP is great for checking mail on multiple devices because it is only referenced up in the cloud. The mail stays in the cloud service and doesn't give you any problems. And then there was POP3, which is a post office protocol, which is very old, nearly as old as me. Okay, it normally stays in the inbox, so it downloads it to a single device. So go careful with POP3, because if it downloads to that single device, it's not on your cloud and you won't be able to use it from other devices. So mails you might pick up on your iPhone all of a sudden don't appear on your tablet or on your MacBook Pro. Has anyone, yeah, I'm going to ask this the right way around. Has anyone not set up an email on a mobile device before? Alan, you can't say your dad. These days, it's incredibly simple and easy to do. But bear in mind, before you sit the exam, when you get around to kind of doing the exams and things, just have a little revise on this, because they do ask you some strange questions around it. It's important to remember that on most mobile devices that it does basically come through and you can basically pick up which version you're on, but it does ask you about IMAP and POP3. Might do, not always does, it might well do. It's just important you know the difference between the two. Luca, you're right. Yeah, Luca basically says you need it almost everywhere. Constantly, my phone is pinging every now and again with details that come in, isn't it? Okay, so while we're basically chatting about email, we probably should cover what's known as email protocols. So we've got a couple of examples here which show us. So our laptop and devices on the left-hand side will connect through an IMAP protocol. We'll talk about protocols when we talk about networks. Just think of it as a language, a conversation format. And it will talk to my mail server, which is the mail host on the cloud system. That mail host will then basically pass details via what's known as SMTP, which is Simple Message Transfer Protocol, to other mail servers that then get delivered to everyone else. So it follows through. If we basically took a conversation from the left-hand side, we can have an IMAP mail client sending to an SMTP server that then basically pokes it all the way across to the right-hand side, that then gets downloaded via a POP3 or via IMAP or via any other format. Now, we won't go into things such as which ports are used or what protocols basically mean. Think of them really at this stage just as a language. So language here, for example, IMAP, you may consider French. So I talk to my server in French. My server then talks to German to every other server out there that has mail on it. And then that server, if it's going via POP3, maybe talking in Swedish. So that's POP3 is Swedish. So think of them at the moment as just different languages. Anyone got any questions about how emails basically transfer across the big World Wide Web? Those servers in the middle are basically host servers that could be Google, they could be Microsoft's, they could be any other form of client server. Good stuff. Okay, so probably one of my favorite topics here, corporate devices versus BYOD. BYOD is bring your own device. When mobile devices became much more popular, there was always a question, or sales guys were running around going, oh, what mobile device am I going to get with this job? What mobile device am I going to get with that job? Okay, companies basically would give you a device. Okay, that means it is a corporately owned device. That means the company provides it for you. It's supposed to be only used for work. I know we use it for everything else. Okay, that has a great benefit of total security and privacy can be provided and worked by that corporation. Okay, they can remove the data, they can wipe it, they can basically trash the system remotely. Okay, it gives them flexibility and essentially satisfies the employee's need to basically have a device. Now, when people started going, oh, actually, I've already got a phone because it became much more popular. I've already got a beautiful phone. I've got the latest iPhone. Why would I want to run around with your Nokia device, Mr. Corporate? So we basically developed things such as BYO devices. So bring your own device basically means you bring your own toy to work, your own phone, but you allow the company to gain a certain amount of access to the device to put things such as their email system on it, or give you access to their SharePoint system, or to their Teams system, or to their Google system. And it segregates it. So the modern method is that you kind of let them onto your device, but only give them certain access. So when you leave that company still must be able to wipe their access and all the data for just their mail system, their documents, their Google documents, Google Drives, or the Microsoft Drives on there. So, and they can do that. So the smartphones allow them just to gain access to that particular area. See, Paul Bird's never used a BYO device at work. Some companies ban them. Some companies that are strict security simply say you cannot have a BYO to bring your, put my teeth back in, bring your own device on site. And that's for big securities. I can see Paul typing, so let's see what he comes up with. For most people, it would just be email on the phone. However, if you have any issues, you may need to give full access to your phone. Not Not necessarily, Paul, because you can lock out certain amounts of access, and indeed we talk about how I manage these things in the future. Massive risk. No, I mean I think the new segregation software that's used by Apple and via Android people basically does prevent a lot of that crossover. It's a bit like having two separate accounts on your laptop. You've got one that your company can access and one that only you accesses. And when your company says, oh, you've left, they can only get access and remove what was their stuff and not what was your stuff. Yeah, I think it does it on the phones now, Paul, as well. I can't remember what the Microsoft one is called. I want to call it. I'll look it up actually. Look it up so we know. But this kind of drops us in. Nice link in here, Paul, for MDM, so which is mobile device management. So this is a process where your company can manage a mobile device remotely. I'm not saying you're arguing, Paul. I love the questions. This is fantastic. I like the comments. It just means I've got to look something up and poke something into the chat, which is what I'm here for. So an MDM is a mobile device management system. So it's a process of managing devices securely. So on my laptop here, for example, I can access an MDM platform and I can manage all the mobile devices in a company. So I can see who's logging on, who's got what software installed, who's not so much accessing what, but I can know when they last logged on and where they are. This is great because it means if someone, as happened about 6 months ago, one of my directors basically leaves his laptop in his car, someone smashes his back window and steals his laptop, he phones me up and I literally blow that device away remotely. So the next time that device was connected to a network of any form, that device basically said, right, I'm fully locked out, I'm wiping the drive, thanks for your time. So none of that data was ever accessible for anyone outside of the company. And indeed, devices such as your phones, certainly the iPhones and Apple, basically have it in the state that they basically tie up the IMEI number that then basically prevents that device being used again. So even if they have stolen that device, if it is locked by Apple, they can't repurpose it. They can't put a new SIM in it and go, this is my device, because the first thing it comes up with is it says, this device is registered to this particular company. Please log in with all these details. And even if you do a factory reset on it and wipe it out, when it pops up, it says, oh, this device is still registered to this company. You can't do anything with it. Okay, so it does allow us to lock things out. You can also go a little bit further and you can get your mobile device management system to install applications. So you can force applications onto systems, you can force updates onto the systems. So it does reduce costs and risks, it improves security for compliances. Chrome laptops probably have it as well, Marty, yes, certainly. But you need to sign the Chrome laptop up to an MDM service. Now, some of the benefits of the MDM is that it basically enhances productivity and efficiency because they can work from anywhere. We don't mind where they work. Okay, if they're sat on a beach in the Bahamas drinking cocktails, as long as they're getting on with work, that's okay. And if something happens, well, we can basically cut that device off. So if it does get pinched or they drop it in the sea or something, we can make sure that device doesn't get used for anything else. So that reduces cost, reduces risk. We can remotely lock and wipe devices, and it improves our security and our compliance. So that's really what an MDM basically does. It allows, the IT manager or the central person to control all the mobile devices across the company. Any questions about what MDMs are? I can see a couple of you typing there, which is great. I'll let you type a few things there. Any examples of MDMs? Bear with me 2 seconds. And my brain's gone blank. I do have an example, but I can't remember what it is. We do talk about it in other products. Hold on then. Gosh, that's 2 things I'm going to have to look up now. The MDM I currently use and how Microsoft basically does separations. I'm happy to do that. That's fantastic. I will post something about both those for everyone. How can we operate on MDM for personal use? You can add the device to the MDM depending on which one it is, and you allocate the rights that are given on that. So you kind of give them access, give the company access via their MDM to those devices. MDMs are normally used for corporate devices rather than BYOs. Okay, let me talk a little bit about operating systems. We know this is going to be a fun conversation. We've got 15 minutes for a fun conversation about operating systems here. They are slightly different. They do have different features. According to StatCounter 2021, Android had 72.67% of the market share. Okay, iOS, which is our good old Apple phones, 26.64 share. Okay, so let's have a look why that is. A lot of it is all about features and price. Okay, we know there's a price difference between the Android and the iOS. Android operating systems are much more customizable. Okay, Android customers can basically go and buy their phones from anyone. They can have different widgets, they can have different icons and different features. The iOS on the Apple systems, on the other hand, is basically uniform, it's consistent. We look at the same sort of icons on my phone as I do on my MacBook Pro, as I would do on any other Mac device. Makes it consistent, makes it good. I think some people like it. The App Store, we've already said, the Android App Store has more products on it. Is that a good thing? Yeah, of course it's good. Choice is a great thing, isn't it? But Apple takes a slightly different view and go, well, choice is great, but we need security. So Apple basically says every single app that basically comes onto our App Store, we have checked for security. We have made sure they're not secretly stealing your data. We've made sure they're not secretly doing anything. We've made sure they actually work properly with our hardware so they won't crash. So there's a full vetting and testing process that happens on the Apple. And compatibility. Android's run on a wide range of devices, from your low-end cheap toys that you can buy all the way up to some very high-end spec for the manufacturers. So your manufacturer can simply go, I want to run an Android device. I'm going to make it as whizzy and fantastic as I like. Or they can go, I just want something really cheap. So there is wide compatibility on the Android operating system. And of course, the Apple one simply just runs on Apple devices. So there's a couple of comments in there that basically talk about things, isn't there? Where iOS, if you're invested in the Apple ecosystem, okay, it sounds like a sensible idea just to carry on doing it. If you're already on a Mac, an iPad, an iWatch, it does make a bit of sense to kind of stick on the same items. Potentially, there's a bigger selection of accessories. Not sure that's strictly speaking true. There's enhanced privacy. Apple are super, super strong about the privacy on their devices, to the extent that the federal court and the feds basically over in America cannot get access to their encryption. If they pick up an Apple device, they are not able to crack into that. Apple won't go, here you go, we'll give you a hand. There was little court case over there a while ago that basically said, no, we're not going to do it. And no one could force them to. So they are super careful about their security. So Android versus Apple. Which one do we go for? Let's have a little Kahoot quiz, shall we? Finish off the Kahoot quiz for the day. Sebastian still at the top. Let's see if we can close in. Gabino is basically, it has a 5-stroke correct answer in a row. Let's see if we can keep that going, Gabino. True or false? BYO devices must be managed by a mobile management application. Must be managed. I see lots of you clicked, and now I'm giving some hints. BYO devices must be managed by that. Oh, Paul. Paul Bird's been kicked out. Someone else is going to steal the glory. I'm going to have to send the sweets to someone else today, Paul. Balls. I thought I'd get a good split in this, and that's why we ask it. The important thing is must be managed. No, if you're a company, you don't have to go, we need an MDM for anyone who basically brings their devices. You can go, that's fine. Stick our mail system on your device. We don't care. Perfectly acceptable. Not very secure, but perfectly acceptable. Drop your PIN on your preferred mobile. Let's see how this scatters it. Oh, look at, is that 50-50 across the board there? You can leave your pin in the middle, Cablan, yes. It's one of those things. Mobile devices are really interesting. You will find that people tend to prefer the devices they're used to. If the first phone you ever had was an Apple, then you'll be Apple, 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 and you'll go through Apples through most of your life. If your first phone was an Android, well, you get used to Androids and you just use Androids all your life. Very few people kind of get to a point where they kind of go, actually, I'm going to change to the other side, for want of a better word, which is really interesting. Well, let's see how that basically finishes up our Kahoot session then. Who's in third place? Gabino. Perfect. Running up at the end. Well done. Mardy comes in second. Top of the pile. It's obviously not Paul because he's got disconnected. Sebastian. Well done, Sebastian. Sorry, Paul. Just teasing you. Paul B still came fifth, though, even though he missed out the last question. Well done, everyone. Thank you very much for taking part in Kahoot. I really enjoy running those. Okay, so in conclusion then, we kind of talked a lot about mobile devices. We know there's benefits, there's pros and cons for each flavor. We spoke about the screens and the difference between the screens. The important thing we talked about here is there's various methods of connecting. We have our Bluetooth, we have our NFDs, don't we? And then we basically have our wireless connections. All right, we now all know that there's a fair split in the audience between Androids and the Apple OSs. Don't be ashamed of yourself, Paul. Well done, Sebastian. It's good competition in the end. So that kind of brings us to the close of the lecture. I'm very open for more questions. We've still got about 7 minutes.